I wasn't entirely sure what video to go after. My time is extremely limited, as my usual working week takes about 60 hours, and when I'm not working I'm usually exhausted. So, rather than going in depth into the deep chasm of a feminist's, well, mind I suppose, let's munch on some low-hanging fruit together.
Oh, hi, babe.
Don't call me babe again.
We are coming up on that time of the year again. Dress codes have been a point of controversy.
Dress codes are a point of controversy. You mean like how women are demanding to be treated no differently than men, but then wanting different rules from men to determine what's a suitable uniform? Yeah, I can see how that's controversial. Good eye, Laci. Feminists really are hypocrites.
And I think rightfully so. At Staten Island High School, administrators gave nearly 200 female students detention for wearing shorts in the sweltering heat of summer. Distracting, they said.
You know what's even more distracting to those male students? Sitting in a classroom, listening to 200-year-old Professor Grave Dodger prattle on about algebra problems, all the while swimming around in ball soup wondering why that bitch sitting next to you looks as carefree as a summer's day. Because different rules apply to her. Yeah, it's a bit sexist. You want equality? Have them wear shirts and trousers all year round, just like the boys.
A middle school in California held a mandatory assembly for girls only and pulled them out of class to tell them they can't wear yoga pants or leggings. Distracting.
We had a similar situation in my school, but directed at boys for the footwear they were choosing. You see, Laci, uniform codes means a set of clothes that you have to wear. And if you're not wearing that, then that's an issue for the school. It's a good life lesson too. What will happen when these girls start looking for jobs with their gender studies degrees? Do you think McDonald's are going to let them wear yoga pants?
A kindergarten student in Georgia was changed without her mother's notification or permission because her skirt was too short. Distracting! So distracting!
Wow, that's a nice straw man, Farmer Green. Did you make it yourself? Yeah, they shouldn't have changed the girl without the mother's consent. They should have kept her in the principal's office until the mother could arrive, take her home for not wearing the appropriate uniform. And I highly doubt they said her skirt length was distracting. You're just taking something from a different situation and applying it to this situation. I highly doubt a teacher said, well, this sexy as fuck kindergarten child just needs to cover up. That didn't happen, Laci. You're lying.
Who exactly is distracted by a kindergartner's skirt?
I thought it was a mispronunciation at first, so I actually had to look up what a skirt was. It's basically a miniskirt. Her mother sent her daughter to school in a miniskirt. Tell me, do you think these outfits are appropriate for a girl who is at most 7 years old? Because I don't. But yeah, it's obviously the school that's in the wrong for having a problem with this.
According to hundreds of schools in the US, it's boys, and perhaps even male faculty. That's uncomfortable.
Well, yeah, in high school you're developing and you suddenly notice some girls with the legs that go all the way up. That's going to be a bit distracting. And I'll take it, as you said, perhaps even male faculty, that there's no evidence to support this assumption. You're talking out of your arse to give males a bad name. Shocking behaviour for a feminist.
Students who are coming forward with these stories often come with tales of inappropriate comments from the administration, like, you shouldn't be showing off your curves. Don't you want a husband someday? School's dress code violators are skanks. Boys are bad, and that kind of shirt is going to cause them to misbehave.
This is just hearsay with no proof offered. Now, I understand it's hard to offer proof for personal experiences, but it would be interesting to see how many of these comments came from female faculty members, because I'm certain that last one must have.
Okay, that makes sense. Wait, no it doesn't.
And here we see a perfect example of why Laci's acting career crashed like the Hindenburg.
To be clear, the problem with this trend is not that there are guidelines for dress. We have guidelines for work and weddings and interviews and outdoor activities and schools. Guidelines themselves aren't the problem. The problem is when these codes target girls specifically because of the mentality that their bodies are sexual and therefore distracting.
As I said before, these guidelines don't target girls specifically. As I was schooled in England, I can't speak from experiences for the US education system, but some US schools do have uniforms, and if you're violating that school's uniform code, then that's not a gender issue. This can swing both ways. And do you think teachers would stand by and allow a boy to show up in a miniskirt? No, I think they'd send him home too, as frankly, that would be even more distracting.
So here are 5 reasons why dress code double standards are kinda definitely sexist.
I'm sorely regretting my choice to do this Laci Green video. I'm sorry to everybody watching for doing this to you.
Number 1. It tells girls, many of whom are children, that their bodies are inherently sexual. It tells her she's not entitled to human decency and respect if her skin is showing, which is slut-shaming, but it's also objectifying. It tells girls that their bodies are more sexual than boys. She's the object, he is the subject. Girls come to see their bodies through the lens of uncontrollable male desire instead of her own wants and her own needs. This is a process called self-objectification, and it has been linked quadrillions of times by the APA to depression, mental health issues, and eating disorders.
Well, you just went full Anita Sarkeesian on this shit, didn't you? No. Showing a bit of skin doesn't automatically make you a sexual object. But you see, there's this thing called modesty and decency. It's generally why at school boys will be told to pull their trousers up if they're doing that ridiculous thing where they wear them halfway down their arse. And it's typical human nature to want to feel desired by somebody else. If you feel absolutely rejected in a physical way, that will lead to depression and eating disorders. If you feel desired, that typically won't. And it's usually other girls that give girls a hard time on what they're wearing. You're reading far too much into a simple enforcement of a uniform code. And surely slut-shaming wouldn't apply to these underage girls, unless you're endorsing underage girls becoming sluts. Well, you've already convinced them not to wear bras, so I'm thinking you want this to happen.
Number 2. It tells boys, many of whom are children, I might add, that girls' bodies are inherently sexual regardless of context.
That's absolutely not true. If this was the intended message to young boys, then girls would be forced by the uniform code to wear slutty, revealing clothing and push-up bras. This is not the case, therefore this is not the message.
It teaches boys that it's acceptable to disrespect girls and misbehave if they can see her skin.
You get that these are children, right? They're going to misbehave no matter what, so will the girls. You're talking as if there's some wide conspiracy going on, some big patriarchal plan. These are children. They see a bit of arse, they like it, it's natural. If these girls don't like it, they can cover up. It's a good lesson to teach. Girls are responsible for what they wear, while boys definitely should and will learn the finer points of self-control. A girl can't expect to walk around barely covered and expect not to get stared at. Because let's face it, you dress slutty for male attention and we all know it.
Instead of teaching boys that they're responsible for their own actions, it teaches them that girls are responsible for them. This is an extraordinarily dangerous lesson that we teach boys. It's part of how we set the stage for harassment, sexual assault, and victim blaming.
Yeah, because we all know that every male is going to be a rapist unless we teach them rape is bad. Fuckwit.
Number 3. These dress codes are often accompanied by a nice heaping spoon of body shame, because girls don't have enough of that.
You get that girls are the only ones that give a shit about that kind of thing, right? It's girls who shame girls for stuff like hair, fat, makeup. Boys rarely notice these superficial factors. Well, maybe the fat thing, but not the others.
Administrators are subjecting them to degrading screenings, complete with comments like, you know, not all dresses look good on certain body types.
Citation, please.
4. Administrators are punishing girls with detention, public humiliation, expulsion, mandatory assemblies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why these girls are called into private offices to talk about how their clothes are against the uniform code. Public humiliation. It's like trying to talk to a dolphin. But you don't even need those glasses, you poser.
What's the real distraction here? Title IX prohibits sex-based discrimination and hostility at school.
Man, you're really running with this distraction thing. I imagine it's because it fits in with your victim narrative. But frankly, I don't accept that as the only reason, if it's a reason at all. But rather, because it's against the fucking uniform code.
These accommodations for boys cannot legally come at the expense of girls' education.
These rules won't be bent for the accommodation of girls. And if they don't comply with said rules, that will impact on their education, and rightly so.
And number 5, the thing that seems to be flying over all these administrators' heads, the reality of middle school and high school is this: everybody is distracted.
You're just gonna shot yourself in the foot there. Everyone is distracted, then how the hell can anyone tell that it's the clothes these girls are wearing that's doing it? But even with that point, there's no excuse to give girls special treatment in the uniform codes.
Everybody's bodies are changing, crushes, it's all new, it's all exciting, and it is not just boys.
School isn't one long sex education lesson, Laci. I know you constantly have sex on your mind, but believe it or not, schools teach other things. Some would argue, more important things. And frankly, these boys are going to be attracted to the girls no matter what they're wearing. It's a basic biological reaction that isn't going to go away. So everyone can follow the uniform code and humanity won't collapse, I assure you. Well, not for that reason anyway.
Why is it always girls that are the problem?
Are you kidding me? When, in any mindless feminist dogma, have girls ever been the problem? It's always the boys' fault to you people. You're a rapist in waiting, you're too easily distracted, patriarchy, all notions anybody with 2 brain cells reject. But banshee-like feminists shout it from the rooftops anyway.
All those feelings, excitement, distraction is just as real for girls as it is for boys, even though we try to pretend that girls don't have a sexuality of their own.
Give me some evidence of that, please. That's a positive claim if ever I've heard one. Laci. It's like you go out of your way to sound as thick as shit on purpose. Is it some kind of act? Are you actually retarded? Or are you actually just that dumb?
We need to teach girls and boys healthy and respectful ways to deal with their feelings so that they can function and have a strong foundation at work, school, and in relationships in the future.
Why do I get the feeling that the only form of respect Laci here would be happy with is beating boys into submission so girls can hold all the cards over them in the future? Does anyone else get that impression?
This is my common sense announcement of the day.
You and I differ greatly on the meaning of common sense.
Some have raised concerns about the pressures on girls to show their skin in the first place.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree with Laci on this point. Unbelievable pressure to show skin. Like sending girls home from school for wearing skirts that are too short. Not allowing 7-year-olds to wear skirts. Yeah, absolutely. The pressure to dress like that is immeasurable. Immeasurable in the sense that it doesn't fucking exist.
While many of the violations that I reviewed are hardly risque, it's totally true that we are bombarded with hypersexualized images of women, and we do feel those pressures.
Oh yeah, and there's absolutely no pressure on a man to look like he's just walked out of a Calvin Klein advert. We all know companies sell their products by showing some fat, sweaty cunt with more chins than a Chinese phone book, showing just how much punishment these elastic waistbands can take.
But, big but, not in an objectifying way.
Very progressively stated. 5 special snowflakes for you.
That problem is not combated by reinforcing our status as sex objects in the dress code.
And surely encouraging girls to dress modestly would combat this. And isn't this like slut-shaming? I can't keep up with the rules they make. It's getting harder and harder to keep track so I can break them efficiently.
Hypersexualization can be combated by empowering girls to feel comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, girls should feel comfortable in what they decide to wear. All the above issues aren't about comfort. They're about violating a school code of conduct about which isn't and is okay, be it a uniform code or otherwise. Are you trying to build an army of straw men so that one of them will finally get the brain from the wizard in the hopes that he'll give it to you?
Addressing the pressures we feel and making spaces to talk about them.
No. Bad, Laci. Safe spaces are an awful idea, and you are an awful person for endorsing them. Besides, don't you have Tumblr for this? I understand it's really scraping the bottom of the barrel of rejects from the people that even therapists would refuse to touch, but still.
And by encouraging girls to wear whatever they feel happy and comfortable in, to dress for themselves and nobody else.
You see, I'm all for girls wearing what they feel comfortable in. But when you start telling boys that they're not allowed to look at those girls because their basic natural drives are telling them to like it, that's where I draw the line. It's just like anything else. You have to take responsibility for your own actions. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You dress like a slut, you turn heads. It's inevitable and healthy. This is one way that the left is so unlike liberalism, it's unreal. You want to punish young men for finding girls attractive. Can you imagine if these idiots ran the world? The human race would die off in just a few generations, be it through their perfect world vision or the uprisings that would occur as a result of their idiocy.
For my middle school and high school babes out there, many of you have emailed me that this stuff is going on at your school. Some of you sent me pictures.
Several issues here. How do we know this is the same school, or a school at all, or the same sender for that matter? Issue 2, the dress code could be don't show any stomach, while it doesn't say anything about the sides. Issue 3, it could be completely fake anyway. Show us evidence.
Of the double standards, things that guys are getting away with while you're getting sent home from school.
Again, this could appeal to a different set of rules. One's profanity and the other is the length of her shorts. And hers was taken in a bedroom that could use a bit of tidying up, I might add. How do we know she even wore it to school?
I want to encourage you to speak up. Protest, contact your local paper, blog about it, like hashtag I'm more than a distraction.
Well, no, Laci, you're not. To the vast majority of people who know you, you're a distraction. People watch you when, frankly, they've got nothing better to do. You're an entertainer. You distract people from their boredom, and I'm exactly the same. Step outside your self-absorbed bubble. Realise that to everybody else, you're not the lead character in their own personal narrative. They are. and all you are is a secondary character, and to some people, just a distraction. Everybody is just a distraction to somebody, and to tell them otherwise is giving them far more of an ego boost than they deserve. But either way, it's not about being a distraction, it's about breaking uniform codes and being penalised for that. It would send a far worse message to allow girls to wear whatever they wanted, to do whatever they wanted, without teachers telling them right from wrong. And that is one of the things I expect schools to teach, that it's wrong to violate the rules. And that includes rules that relate to what you're not allowed to wear.
Several of you launched poster campaigns at your school, which is amazing. You deserve equal treatment and equal access to education. You deserve a learning environment that is free of the distractions of your sexist administrators.
Give me an example of how a rule-abiding girl is not equal and is deprived of education simply for being a girl, and I will show you an example of boys who are deprived of education for breaking rules. Right, I'm sick of Laci, I won't inflict any more of her on you. You can all take the loaded pistols out of your mouths. It just astounds me how they can latch onto one example of something that may or may not have been said and use that to justify an entire new front in their campaign against reason, and spin it in such a way that it seems like a huge nationwide conspiracy to make girls feel bad about themselves. That's something they don't need help with. Every fucking girl feels bad about themselves with no help from us. And frankly, other girls in their own age group are the biggest part of the problem. And to any women watching this, could you comment and tell me, in your experience, is it other girls that are the cause of this problem? Or was it, whatever Laci was flapping her lips about? Okay, I think I've got that out of my system now. Before I finish up, I'd like to say a big thank you to Bearing, who shouted me out and got me around 500 new subscribers. So cheers, mate, I owe you one. And a big welcome to all the new subscribers. I'm sure we'll have a good time together. And as always, thank you for your time.